What's up, model building fans? Hey, it's Brian, and welcome back to the channel. I got a couple things we want to share with you that we had picked up. So itty bitty little stash ad, and then I'll show you what we got going on the bench because we actually pulled something off the shelf of shame. Feeling very encouraged to keep working on that guy there because we do have some shows coming up in October, November, and January that we want to take this to. So we're really excited about that. But first, we want to say thank you to a friend of the channel, Thomas Schry. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that name. I know he comments and watches a lot of videos out there that we all make, and just an awesome fellow. But he gifted us this model quite a while ago, and this is supposed to be for my brother, who's ex-military special forces. And we're like, you know what? Let's get on this guy. So we're going to be building that for my brother. Probably won't do videos on it, but when we do have a final, perhaps we'll share that. We'll see how it goes. But no time frame, no distinction on how it should be built. Probably box art will be just fine. Decals that are included in there. Maybe a couple of little extra things that we get from Value Gear. I'll have to reach out to Steve and see what he suggests on a model like this. But yeah, that's going to be kind of like the side project of everything else that goes on the bench. But we did want to share with you guys a couple things that we picked up. One was on Amazon. This guy right here, 25 bucks plus shipping, or I should say tax, plus tax. But yeah, that this is an awesome kit. I really like this version of this kit too. I know there's a couple different versions out there. I think there's the Nikki and then the Yenko, but this one is my all-time favorite, and I'm really excited about tinkering with that one there. I've of course built it in the past, and it's just one of those kits that's really well done, and I really like it. The engine in it is freaking awesome. So there's that one. But when we had delivered our commission build to our client, which was yesterday, and he absolutely loved it, by the way, lots of handshakes and pat backs. So that was back patting. So that felt great. But as a thank you, he gifted us this. Yeah, and this has been on my want list since we saw it up in Vegas in May at their show, the Plastic Posse podcast. I think I said that correctly. They had one of these kits on their table that they were letting people peruse through and talk to them, stuff like that. And that's a really cool idea. You know, I think Tamiya, we worked with Tamiya to have that that kit there on display. But generated a lot of interest in this household because Mrs. BG was like, yes, we want one of those. And then when our client gifted this to us yesterday, I was like, I'm going to bring that home, and I might have to fight Mrs. BG for it. But she said, it's okay. It's ours. So which means I build it probably the way she wants it done. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, awesome stuff there. Okay, cool. So let's show you what we got going on the bench, and we'll talk to you in a second. Okay, yes, it is the Super B. We're back on the AMT Pro Street Super B 1970 Cornet. That's all disjointed. I'm sorry. The information's there, just not in the right order. But we've done polishing on this. We did a video series on the polishing of this body, which was a lot of fun to do. So I thought that was cool. We had a few sticking points with the actual build. First off was the rear end here. So just as the model is in the box, straight out of the box, the wheels sit too close to the ladder bars here. Not ladder bars? I don't know. It's the four link system here. Rubs right up against it, and that rubbed me the wrong way. So I extended the axle tube a little bit with some aluminum tubing. That turned out to be a little too wide, so then we had to take it all apart, and then I measured as best I could. Took it all apart, cut it down, put it, and then I had to do that, I think, 2 more times to get everything to fit together just right. And now we have just the right distance away from the 4-link and in from the fender, so I think we're in the Goldilocks position there with the wheels. I'd have to glue them in place, so they're a little floppy, but we'll glue them in place and make sure that everything's tracking correctly, because we do not want this guy heading towards a wall, right, when he launches out of the hole. We got the engine finally mounted. Another sticking point was mounting the headers to the engine block. The headers aren't exactly, they're kind of vague, and the block is kind of like, it should go here, but and there was just no real solid place to do a glue surface. So I decided to go ahead and drill the just two of the exhaust tubes on each header on each side, and the fore and aft ones, and then drill corresponding holes on the block, and then use aluminum rod, to pin it all together, and then some super glue. But before we drop super glue on there, we came back and that's why I use the aluminum rod, is so that I can actually bend them in, bend them out, fore and aft, up and down, just to tweak them a little bit so that they would be not only fitting in there correctly, but symmetrical to each other, because that's sort of important. But they're in there now. The engine's actually glued in. It's doing pretty good. We did canopy glue, the Zap 560 canopy glue. The engine's sitting on the motor mounts. I think that's a win in this build. That is definitely a win. And then we just have it glued at the coupling for the drive shaft. But yeah, this is looking so much better. And to just have the engine in with the headers on, and the rear wheels mounted correctly, I mean, I feel like we are really jumped some hurdles there. We're getting going in the right direction. So there's that. The body, we before we had done all of the polishing videos on it and stuff, we had gone and tried to do decals on here, but made a major mistake in that department. I had sanded the body down so that we could do another pass of clear, and it was nice and honed looking. And then I went and I put the decals down. I thought, okay, I'll put the decals on, and then I can just do a clear over the decals, seal it all in, tickety-boo, Bob's your uncle, done. And then I put the decal on, and it stayed there. And it was like, the first application of the decal hardly ever is perfect. So you got to fudge it here and there. And then this long upper curve of the claw is just very wiggly and doesn't want to behave and all that kind of jazz. So I tried to get that as straightened out as possible, and then I couldn't keep it floated off the lifted off the surface well enough, and it just hunkered down, and then they started to break and tear, and then they started to kind of curl. The edges, if I remember correctly, the edges started to curl up a little bit. Ooh, tacos. But yeah, it was the whole thing was failing. So I went and I took the decals back off. Had to do some more sanding here to get the little bit of excess off. And I was like, okay, well, the decals are trash. We're not working on decals. And then I had made a video about that. The very next day, my good friend Chris Rohde had reached out to me over text and was like, I have some decals. You're welcome to them. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to walk down that road again. He goes, no, you do whatever you want with them. You're cool, So I'm like, okay, you know what? I actually feel courageous enough today to give it a try and see how it goes. The only thing I need to be aware of is that the transparent film is actually filling this marker light hole. And I'm thinking I might go in there with a nice sharp hobby knife and get out at the most I can out of there, so that it's not covering the marker light, because I don't think that's going to look good. So yeah, so that's going to be the next step here. And I think once we get the decals on and they look good, and they're all dried up and everything, we can come back and do the windows, the bright work around the windows, door handles, stuff like that, and then finish off the engine bay build, because that is definitely an order of process situation where you need to put in the core support and then add in both the inner fenders. Put all that together, make sure that's all nice and secure, and then drop in the interior, which is over here, which is done a long time ago. That's all done, and then put it all together. Now, there is one last issue that I need to mention on this guy, and that is the front suspension. You'll notice there's a piece of aluminum tube on here. The wheels that come with the kit, the actual lug holes on there are narrower than the spindles that are on the kit. Larger than the spindles that are on the kit. That's no bueno. So there's a lot. It's like, I don't need that much camber. I mean, look at that. I mean, I don't need that much camber, right? So mounted these pieces of aluminum tubing on there, and the one on the passenger side is still stuck on the wheel, and then the driver's side is, of course, as you see it. But I'm like, yeah, okay, we need to fix that. And then while I was going through that process of fixing all that, I think it was this guy broke. And I was like, that's it, I'm done. So now I'm trying to make sure this, because this wheel is nice and perpendicular to the frame, it looks good. This wheel kicks out at the bottom, and I'm like, oh, all right. So we're working on sorting that out. But I wanted the engine in there and secure, so it could have the weight sitting on that wheel, so I know if it's going to kick out or not, and test it out. So there we go. That's what we got going on here. But decals, bright work, engine bay, front suspension, final assembly, coffee. There we go. Cookies. There'll be cookies. There'll be cookies at the end of this one for sure. So there we go. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking around this long. I really appreciate that. And thanks again to Thomas Schry for the awesome gift of the model that we're going to be building for my brother. Y'all take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.